Welcome to the Customized Learning webinar. My name is Mary Carnahan, and I am an e-learning resource specialist with the Indiana Department of Education. And I'm excited to be with you today and to have so many people on the call. And hopefully you're excited to learn a little bit more about this topic. And we will get started with that in just a few minutes, but I will start with some just general housekeeping stuff. First of all, most of you have started using the chat window over to the right already. Please use that throughout the webinar to ask questions of our presenters, also to share ideas with your fellow participants. If you have some thoughts or ideas about what they're talking about, please feel free to share them in the chat window. When you use the chat, please make sure next to send to that you select everyone. That defaults to me, and I would love to see your questions, but I would also love for everyone else to get to see them. So please make sure that you select to send to everyone. And I think that's all for now. If you're hearing, or all for that, if you are hearing me, that means that you got your audio. You are connected by phone, so I'm glad that everyone had success doing that. It looks like we've got a lot of people on the call. So let's jump right in. So the first thing to continue with my beginning housekeeping is that I just want to share with you what we have going on for the rest of the month. October is Connected Educator Month, and we are excited to be participating in this national endeavor. We have one more webinar this month, and that is tomorrow, Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern, the same time as today, and we will be talking to the author of Teach Like a Pirate, Dave Burgess, and we have been reading his book for the past 6 weeks or so with the fall e-learning book group. So if you've not had a chance to be a part of that conversation, you're still welcome to jump in. We've got a couple more weeks left in that book group, so please join in the book group or just check out the book. It is a really interesting way to look at teaching. He's really he's a very interesting man. I can't wait to talk to him tomorrow afternoon. So please, again, join us the same time tomorrow. And also we are having a day in the life of Connected Educator Challenge. So if you would like to share how you are connecting, we would love to see that, and you can get more information about those things on our website. And this is not an updated screenshot. I need to do that. But if you go to our website, which is just doe.in.gov/elearning, or you can just enter e-learning in the search box on any page on the DOE site, you will get to our website, and thank you, Michelle just shared it. There is a link right on our homepage to the Connected Educator Challenge, and you can also get to all of our webinars and the book and information about the book group by clicking on professional development there on the left-hand column. So we would love to have more people involved in what we have going on, and that is where you can find the information. This week, our Twitter chat topic is blogging, so the effects that blogging has had on the transformation of instruction and learning. That chat is Thursdays, and my little icon got chopped up a little bit there, but our Twitter chats are every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, so you can either try to multitask and watch Big Bang Theory while you're participating in that, or you can DVR it, or if you're old school, record it, or if you're really new school, watch it online later. But please join us for that weekly Twitter chat, and that is, the hashtag is right there, INELearn. And you can also follow us on Twitter at INELearn. So today we are talking about the topic of customized learning, and we have representatives from 3 schools who really jumped into customized learning, and they are going to talk to us about that today. But first, I'm going to introduce Molly Yoel, who is a teacher at Danville Schools, and she is working with our IMAC grant schools. So she gets to work with this consortium. So she's going to talk to you just for a minute or two about the topic and then introduce our first presenter. So Molly, feel free to take it away.
And
I think I just, okay,
can you hear me?
Here you go, Molly. You're unmuted now. Go ahead.
Okay. I just said thanks, Mary, and then a big thanks to everyone that's listening today, and for those that are presenting today. We appreciate you giving up your time. Morgan, Tanya, and Dan, and Matt, I think, are all on to speak and to answer questions later on. And they were asked to speak on the topic of customized learning today because they are living and breathing it at their respective districts, and really helping build a framework to benefit other schools, not just across the state, but across the country. So we're excited about that, and they're working together and sharing ideas. Although each district has their own unique approach when it comes to the implementation of customized learning, they all agree that personalizing learning for students is what's best. And so that's what you're going to hear about today, kind of how they came to that conclusion and how they're implementing it at their respective districts. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail because I don't want to take away from what they're going to say. So I'll go ahead and introduce Morgan Walker from Danville Community Schools. She's going to start us off.
Thank you, Molly. Yeah, as Molly mentioned, our district has been working towards customized learning for a little while now. I'm the Director of Academic Services in the district, so it is a curriculum director plus lots of odds and ends, and one of those odds and ends includes kind of heading up the customized learning in our district. Danville, just so that you kind of understand where we are on the map, we're about 20 minutes east of or west of Indianapolis. We have about 2,600 students, so we're a fairly small school, but I think that we have a lot of common conversations. If you want to go to the next slide, Mary. I think some of these, as educators look down through this list, we will find that we have a lot of things in common here. And I just wanted to kind of start out by giving a very brief overview of kind of why we decided to transform education in our district. One of the first things that we looked at was obviously ever-changing student learning needs. We believe that we have kind of a 19th century school structure, a 20th century curriculum, and 21st century learners. And so, we really need to adapt our teaching methods to meet student needs. Academic performance, of course, is always an issue in every district. Everybody wants to be successful, not only on state assessments, because obviously, we know that that's just one piece, but, we want kids to, be successful in whatever it is that they choose to do, inside our school walls, but then after they leave as well. We have a growing global society and a lot in competition for students. Now in this day and age with a lot of transfer students and vouchers and some of those things, we want to make sure that, we are a great school district for other students to come to. And also just a lot happening at the state and federal level with regards to education. So, elimination of seat time requirements. We had some conversations in our district about race to the top and some of the conversations that brought with us. And so there's just kind of a lot of things causing change right now. Next slide, please. For the last 4 years or so, and probably a little earlier than that, but probably a heavy emphasis for 4 years, our teachers and administrations decided that we kind of wanted to take those challenges, embrace them, and run with a solution that worked for us. And so really we started doing a lot of research. We really dove headfirst into everything from Guskey's work, Bloom, Marzano, Hattie, McGarvey, and Schwann, their book Inevitable, and I know that the other presenters will be talking a little bit about that book later. But we did a lot of research and what's the best stuff out there. What makes the most sense? We looked at things locally that had been successful, things that we'd seen, and then national solutions as well. And so we were able to visit a couple schools. We went to Adams County School District in Colorado. and we went to Lindsay Unified School District in California. And both of those schools were using customized learning as a way to, for their students to show success. They had some data that they were able to show us, some processes put in place that we really liked. Next slide, please. And so we kind of all came together as a group and, decided that, we needed a vision. And so this vision was created with input from our stakeholders, and it really kind of encapsulates our vision for the students in our school system. We really wanted to make sure that, kids were allowed to advance at their own pace. One of the things that we believe is that, all students can be successful, but students learn in different ways and in different time frames. And, you think about, kids as toddlers and, kids learning to walk. And I know with my own kids, they were on a different timeline. And you go to the doctor, and even if you say, man, my neighbor's kids, they're walking already. Shouldn't my kids be walking already? Every doctor you talk to will say, they'll get it in their own time. Kids learn in different ways. They learn in different time frames, and that's okay. And then suddenly when we get into school, we're in a very time-based system. And so we wanted to really make sure that, we know that we truly believe all kids can learn, but some of them may learn a little faster than others and a little slower than others, and it'll depend on the subject and, the topic. And so we really wanted to embrace that. We really wanted to kind of take, a 21st century approach to education. We talked about you have this kind of traditional assembly line approach to education, and we just didn't think that was supporting the success of our students. And so, we recognized that there was a need to restructure our system, and so we just decided, let's dive in head first. Next slide, please. That was kind of the background of, kind of how we got to this point. We've got, this is our second year of implementation of our customized learning pilots in our district, and we kind of went back and forth and decided that we wanted parents to opt their children into the program. And so you can see in our second year, we have just over 50% of all of our K-8 students whose parents opted them into the pilot program, which we think is a huge success. That means that, just over half of our kids in just 2 years and half of their parents have seen that this is a successful program. They understand, they've kind of grasped the concept. And I think in just 2 years of a pilot program implementation, that's something that we're really proud of. So we have pilots going on, K-8. We have 4 different schools in our district. Our North Elementary is kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. And they're actually piloting English language arts and mathematics. They're doing both right now. South Elementary it has grades 3 and 4 in there, and they are piloting mathematics. And in middle school, our 5th, 6th, and 7th and 8th grade are piloting mathematics. And our high school is kind of a little different in that they have really embraced the mastery learning approach. One of the things that we're working on right now is, some online options and, some different routes for those kids. If they are moving faster at the high school level, we have to have, some outlets and some things where we can say, if you were to finish a class early, we don't want to just, send you home or have you in a study hall or you got to sit and wait till the next semester starts. So we are kind of putting those things in place. But as we are, we're really diving into mastery programs. And so we've got some different things going on in Algebra 1, English 9, World History, and ICP. One of the things that has been really helpful for us is giving our pilot teachers, we give them 1 work day a month as a group to meet together, talk about strategies, things that are working. And we also had 5 training days this summer that were really nice in kind of getting us all prepared. Next slide, please. I think this is kind of the meat and potatoes. This is the most common question that I get, and I know that a lot of you on the line, if you're not as familiar with customized learning, you just want to know, what does this look like? What does it look like for a teacher? What does it look like for a student, kind of day to day? And so, in a typical classroom that you'll kind of see in some of our customized learning pilots, most of the teachers will start out kind of doing a lesson at teacher pace, and that's whole group instruction most of the time. One of the things that we are tied to is a state assessment, every year, and there is a certain time that our kids have to take that. And so one of the things that kind of made our teachers a little unnerved was, if kids aren't exposed to some of this material, how can we ensure that they're going to be successful on a test? So even though, it's okay if they're kind of working behind that pace, our teachers were a little worried that they may not have, if they're never introduced to a topic, that they may not be as successful. One of the things we've found with our data back from our state assessments after just our first year in pilot is that we had kids that, even though they didn't see all the content, have done better on state assessments than they've ever done before because what they know, they really know. But this teacher pace just kind of ensures everybody's on the same, everybody kind of hears the same message. Teachers like to be able to explain things in a way that, they think is easiest for students, and so this allows them to kind of still do that at the beginning of every class. They'll check in with students to talk about the day's tasks. So that's going to look a lot different for our younger kids, our K2, K3 kids. That looks a lot different than our, our older middle school kids and high school kids. Obviously at their lower levels, they're doing a lot less work independently. They're doing a lot more teacher-led activities. And so when they split for that small group work, the younger kids are really going to be working with a teacher, or a lot of times if they're not sitting and working in a small group with a teacher, they're working on math or literacy workstations. At the upper grades, kids can be more independent, and so they kind of have a variety. Sometimes they will have more centers or workstations, but a lot of times those kids are then working on their own. They're working through materials, they are taking assessments as needed, they are watching videos online to get help, they are pre-assessing, all of those things. And so as they take those assessments for mastery, each of our pilot classrooms, they have pre-tests that are taken by all students, and we've decided, a pre-test doesn't necessarily mean, if you've done well, you can just kind of skip over a level, but we have kind of scaffolded practice. So, depending on how that pre-test goes, your practice may look different from the practice of a student right next to you, and that's okay. We do a post-test that is an assessment for mastery that is not a multiple choice or a true-false assessment. So we really want all of our post-tests to be performance-based. So we feel like that's what best prepares our kids for not only assessments but also just critical thinking and making sure they really have the concept at a high level. And then if needed, then those kids will retest. We've kind of set 80% as our bar for mastery. And so, our goal is for all students to hit that 80% mark. We do, obviously, remediation if needed. Part of our remediation is built into our RTI, and so kids that go to the RTI will get additional support there. And we also do some, before school help, after school help, and we're kind of debating about the idea of working in some summer work this summer as well. And then a big part of this is the communication. Communication with students and with parents and with other teachers. We will, get kids kind of in the same, that are working at the same levels, and we'll shift them from teacher to teacher. So students have a group of maybe 3 to 4 teachers that they'll go back and forth with. So they really do get to know those teachers. That's something that's very important, especially at the elementary level, that our kids make that connection to their teacher. They have a small group, but they may shift depending on the skill. So I may be great at multiplying fractions, but when it comes to decimals, I kind of struggle. And so those groups are interchanged on a regular basis. That's one of the things that those teachers do when they're meeting. The communication, I think, was one of the things that caught us off guard the first year that we tried this. And so we've developed kind of a few different strategies, but one of the things, the programs that we use is called Mastery Connect, and that keeps track of all of our kids' standards by mastery level. And that has been really nice, a really nice addition this year to communicate with parents so that they know exactly where their children are at all times. We keep kind of a great eye, that check-in time. is to make sure that, kids aren't falling, behind, kids have the support that they need to kind of keep going. We have a lot of great parent volunteers. Parents come in, and even if it's just kind of, walking around and checking in with students as needed, sometimes they're just kind of an extra hand in the room, and so that really helps our teachers as well. Some of the day-to-day things I know are the things that people want to see. One of the things that we're, talking to other districts about is just, taking those visits. So, of course, if anybody would ever be interested in coming in and visiting, we'd be happy to open up our rooms and let you get in there and see things. Obviously, transforming from the model that we're using to a performance-based system is definitely not quick and easy. And so, we're just kind of creating that foundation for success. Definitely takes time and energy and resources. And so, the good thing about this is that we've got 2 other fantastic school districts that are kind of in the fight with us, and we've been able to really connect with them as we work through all of our processes. As Molly said, I think that you'll find that we have very similar philosophies in educating kids, but the neat thing about this is each district has kind of put their own special spin on customized learning. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and pass the torch off to Tanya.
Alrighty, thank you, Morgan, for getting us started. That's a lot of information to start with. My little wheels are spinning just thinking about my own kids and their school. So next we have Garrett-Keyser-Butler, and Tanya, take it away.
Okay, thank you. We are thrilled to share with you how we're approaching personalized learning at Garrett. And I'm Tanya Weaver. I'm the Director of Administration and Innovation here in our district. And I also have Matt Smith, who's our high school principal, who will offer kind of a unique perspective on the way we're approaching it at the high school. So just to give you a little perspective of where we come from, the Garrett-Keyser-Butler system is approximately 1,800 students, and we're located in the northeast corner of the state. So we're a rural district. We have about a little over 50% receiving free and reduced lunches. So could you go ahead, Mary, and go to slide 2? We actually began this journey to personalized learning without even realizing it by creating some conditions for success in our district. Our solid foundation was first built on the idea of students being leaders of their own learning. So quite some time ago, we began studying the continuous improvement model, and we began using data with our students to really drive instruction and to empower those students to own their own data. So data and then student empowerment are really key factors to personalized learning, and when we began this journey quite some time ago, we didn't realize where we were going to end up, but those are definitely 2 key pieces. Next, we moved to a one-to-one environment at our school. We believe technology is really a tool to help us achieve personalized learning. So in our school, students use iPads K-8, and then we have MacBooks in grades 9 through 12. So quality instruction for today's students, and actually tomorrow's, really involves the creation of a highly personalized learning journey that reflects the learner's individual needs and addresses their passions and interests. So we've been able to harness that technology to really transform the education. And then last, we also, a couple years ago, began to explore the idea of project-based learning and realized that when students explore real-world problems and challenges, they're truly more engaged and inspired to obtain a deeper knowledge of the subjects they're studying. So with those 3 items, the idea that students are empowered to become leaders of their learning, the technology as a tool to support personalized learning, and then students exploring their passions to become more deeply engaged, those 3 key ideas really propelled us forward into this whole idea of personalizing learning for our students. Many of our teachers did read the book Inevitable, as Morgan talked about, and I think Dan will share a little bit more about that. And that really helped us examine what we're doing in school today and how we really do have, a 19th century kind of feel to our building. So we embarked on that new journey to personalize learning for all of our students, and we began to look at how that idea might look across the different grade levels. So Mary, if you could go to the next slide, we'll kind of talk about what does that look like in each level. At the elementary level, we formed multi-age instructional teams. Each team has 3 learning coaches who work with children at their own level. So we're no longer looking at a born-on date to determine what skills and strategies the children need. We're using the data and forming on-demand groups. So that really takes each child into their own level of learning and where they're at as an individual. We do use technology to help us address that individual pace of students. For example, one of the things that we're doing at the elementary is using Dreambox, and that's an adaptive learning technology that continually adjusts the student pace, along with then the teachers meeting in those on-demand groups. So it's not uncommon at the elementary to see a kindergarten child working with a first or a second grade age child, depending on the skills and strategies. So we've had some unexpected surprises as these children have interacted. It's really neat to see the learning that goes on and the interaction between children of different ages. And so that's been a really cool thing that's happened from this. The learning occurs, it's been phenomenal to see the learning occurring between those cross grade levels, and it doesn't matter how old kids are, it's what strategies and what they're working on. So the reason we decided to inform instructional teams was really to focus on that whole relationship piece so that teachers, and now we call them coaches, our learning coaches truly know their learners. They know them as mathematicians, they know them as readers and writers, and they're able to develop that relationship over time. So our focus at the elementary has gone away from the one-size-fits-all, one way of instruction, which is obviously an aging model, to flexibility in their learning. And, some key pieces to that are time cannot be the constant, but learning is the constant. So we're always focusing on learning and mastery, which Morgan talked about. That's really our focus. And then time and that flexible grouping is based on the students and their needs. So that's the approach we're looking at the elementary, and we're basing it, really time is a variable, pace is a variable, and then students having time to really look on some interest-based kinds of things. And then at the next slide, we're going to see how Garrett's using it at the middle school. So at our middle school, because at the elementary we're doing it for all 750 kids across all content areas, working on personalized learning. At the middle school, we decided to take a different approach, and so we formed what we've called a locomotive learning community. So it's a community within our school that serves 99 students in grades 6 through 8. And there's really 3 guiding factors or guiding forces that help us with that. There's personalized learning coaches. So again, those children in grades 6 through 8. Those learners have learning coaches that help meet with them and talk about their individual learning plans and help guide them in their learning and exactly what they need to know best or next. Personalized learning pace. Children are all learning at different paces, and that's obviously a key factor and a guiding force for us. So there's on-demand grouping that occurs with the teacher and also through technology and some of those aspects. And then the last thing is really personalizing the interest. For middle school children. Children are more engaged in the learning process when they own their learning and they have an interest in that. So the LLC, or the Locomotive Learning Community, really allows students voice and choice in their learning. And voice and choice, I think, are really key for especially that age student. Many of the projects they're working on in the LLC are student-initiated. So it allows students to really learn about in ways that they're interested in and things that they're interested in learning about. So in the LLC, there are 4 learning coaches who work with those 99 students, and then each of those coaches really work closely with the students to devise those individual learning plans that I talked about. And then scheduling, that's another key factor in that. Traditionally in a middle school, there are class periods, and that time dictates what students are learning and when they're learning it. And the LLC is really, they're able to adjust their classes and their schedules and their seminars that they offer based on student needs. So it really is very student-centered in that aspect. And then the next slide is going to talk about how we are personalizing learning at the high school. And so Matt Smith, the high school principal, is going to discuss what that looks like at Garrett High School.
The next slide, ready? Yep, there it is. The Garrett Innovation Academy, we have 61 learners, 2 full-time learning coaches, happen to be a math teacher with computer tech also on his license, and an English teacher. The 2 part-time learning coaches is a social studies teacher and then a science. So we felt like it was important to have in our academy the 4 core subjects. I want to get to some obstacles that cause 2 not including business, but I'll get to that later. Students access their learning targets through software that we got through our visit to Kettle Moraine High School in Deerfield, Wisconsin. So students access their own account on MyLC Solutions, My Learning Community Solutions, they call it MyLC, and they can see what learning targets they need to complete or master to earn the high school credit. Learning targets are local and are developed by local and state standards, and then those targets are completed through 4 different methods. First of all, we have traditional courses, because some high school courses being so specialized just don't lend themselves to having the students do a personalized project. For example, pre-calculus. Learning targets in pre-calculus are a little bit difficult to tie to other interdisciplinary projects. Another course we're struggling with in that same aspect is accounting, and then Chem 2. So upper level science, upper level math classes. So that's why we keep the traditional courses. Next, students can attack and master learning targets through blended courses. Those are online courses with their learning coach as a tutor, and we're experiencing a lot of success there. But the key piece in my mind is they're blended. Students just aren't doing the course by themselves online. Another piece that we've modeled our academy, again, from the Kettle Moraine visit in Deerfield, Wisconsin, is the seminars and workshops. Teachers developed seminars according to student interests, and they have some pretty wild titles for those. For example, I Don't Want to Suck at Life is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. So that seminar is a 4-week seminar. It's a book study of Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. And then from there, students get interested in something they're curious about through those seminars. And then from those seminars, because it piques interest and curiosity, the 4th way then is student-initiated projects. Students will say to their learning coach, hey, I'm kind of interested in that, or I'd like to know more about something from the seminar, and then students work on personalized projects, again, to attack their learning targets. And there's a variety of projects to help students meet their learning targets. For example, we have a young lady here, it's a freshman at Garrett High School. It's very interested in being a fashion designer. She wants to travel to New York to enroll in the Art Institute there for fashion design. Well, she took 8 of the organelles of the human body, and because of the organelles' function, shape, color, and texture. She designed a complete clothing line using those 4 aspects of the organelles, and she explained it to me like no other science student I've ever heard in high school. So guys, that's personalized learning in a quick nutshell here at Garrett High School. I sure hope it helps pique your interest, and I look forward to some questions at the end.
All righty, thank you, Tanya and Matt, for filling us in on what you guys have going on at Garrett-Keyser-Butler. And next we have Dan Funston from Plymouth. And Dan, are you unmuted? I'm going to try to unmute you. I think you're this.
There we go. Can you
Okay.
hear me now?
We can. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'll try not to repeat a lot of what everybody from Garrett and Danville has said so far. We've all, I think, studied a lot of the same material and have a lot of the same philosophy. So kind of on the philosophical stuff, I might jump through that pretty quick. Go ahead to the next slide there, Mary. All of us, I think, studied the book Inevitable, and the whole idea behind Inevitable is that our kids sit in a customized world, basically embracing the industrial age while they're at school. And so, you know, schools need to survive. In order for schools to survive, in order to educate our kids as best we can, then schools need to customize the learning for students, since that's what they're used to, and that's really the best way to motivate them as well, too. So go ahead to the next slide. A couple things that we believe in Plymouth that, again, are similar, but I'll reiterate a couple things. Learning is the constant and time is the variable. In the industrial age model, time is the constant. We know you have a certain amount of time per period, and the learning varies by learner. So this kind of flips that on its head. The second thing is really, we feel really strongly that in order for our kids to be college and career ready, teaching self-directedness really is the key to that, because kids are going to have to continue to learn once they leave us, just as we all have to continue to learn to be effective at our jobs. And the research behind how many jobs our kids are going to have when they get into the workforce, the idea of self-directedness is so important because it's key for lifelong learning. So we really focus our efforts on building that self-directedness and how we can do that. We know that inquiry and interest-based learning is key to motivation, so a lot of the things we're doing revolve around inquiry and especially really interest-based, which I'll talk about a lot today. We feel it's necessary to have content available on demand. It's been talked about a little bit about what happens at the high school level, but we really feel, and in the book Inevitable, they talk about the importance of having as many courses online as possible, especially when it's appropriate for that material. So we have a lot of effort in that direction. And then learning is 24/7. Just the whole idea that we bring our high school kids in and we start school at 7-something in the morning. And we know from research that really probably that early time is best for elementary kids. And so trying to kind of flip that around and provide learning 24/7, and then really one-to-one computing is necessary for all of this. So we're actually in our 4th year of one-to-one computing for that. Okay, next slide. So at our elementary level, we actually are doing a pilot in 3rd and 4th grade in elementary school at Webster Elementary, and really we're focusing on math right now because we're a little bit in the earlier stages than Garrett and Danville, and I believe both of them probably started in the area of math because it just is a little easier to identify the skills and to move kids through in a personalized way. So identifying those learning outcomes, right now we're the whole consortium, the group of us, have been working on Learning Path software. And so you heard Danville talk about Mastery Connect. You heard Garrett talk about my LC. And so we're kind of at the stage where we've been doing that kind of our own way, spreadsheets and things here recently, and we'll probably be implementing something different here because the technology's out there. So again, moving more of our curriculum online as possible. We're using My Big Campus to store a lot of that content. We're actually going to start using Dreambox. We've started to use Dreambox, similar to Garrett, for math at the elementary level. We've had standards-based report cards, and you heard Morgan talk about, you know, the importance of a performance-based reporting system. And so we're really just trying to make our standards-based report cards even more user-friendly for parents, user-friendly for students, and then we really think that it's key for kids to be able to show that they've mastered content in ways other than just assessments, like everybody else talked about too. And so we're really working on an e-portfolio system using Google Apps for that. Okay, next slide. At the middle level, probably the most exciting thing, one, we have a math pilot with 30 students, and that's going well. It's pretty much all small group. Kids go through in workshops based on where they are in their curriculum, and it really right now is teacher pace, above teacher pace, and below teacher pace, kind of like what Morgan talked about in their elementary schools. After that, though, we've created self-organized learning environments, and if you've seen that TED Talk, or if you haven't, I would suggest, you know, go to YouTube and type in TED Talk, and then maybe type in SOUL or self-organized learning environments. And really the whole idea around that is that kids basically come in and the teacher is a facilitator, but it's time for kids to pursue avenues that they're passionate about and to learn and create projects and things around areas that they're passionate about. So we have 5th and 6th grade students creating apps right now. They're in the Apple Developer program and developing some camera apps. We have students who are doing some other things as far as we have a 3D printer, so they're working with Google SketchUp and they're designing the things that's coming out of what they're passionate about. So really it's our hope that we can share with our community that when kids are passionate about what they're learning, they truly can learn in a self-directed way with a teacher as a facilitator. I think it's important. That's the biggest shift for communities right now, is that everybody, parents, everybody's been through school. They're used to the teacher being in front of the room, the teacher being the expert, and really flipping that on the head to where the teacher is a facilitator. There's an abundant amount of information already out there, and so that's hard for people because they ask, what's the teacher doing? So we really hope that these SOUL environments are going to help us build capacity for the idea that students can organize themselves. And then we actually have online classes that we're teaching completely online. We have a health class at the middle school level, and we have an 8th grade social studies class and a 7th grade social studies class. And what this has allowed us to do is just to be able to better personalize learning for our kids. So they can take that class online, which frees up other options for them in their schedule to take things they're passionate about, like orchestra or something else, Project Lead the Way. And so, you know, we hope to continue to expand that even at our middle level because those classes are very popular so far. Okay, next slide. And at the high school right now, those of you who work in a high school know that sometimes it feels like the high school is slowest to move at times. But our efforts really at the high school focus around building out our online courses so that kids have more options, and then building on our blended learning courses. And so we're actually part of an earlier project where we worked on flip instruction. As part of that, we're still flipping instruction in the blended learning model a lot. But we also have built up this library of thousands of podcasts that are really good from math teachers. And so having that content available on demand has allowed us to better personalized learning at the high school level. So, okay, next slide. Okay, so just our vision, individual learning plans for all of our students, engaged and motivated learners, which we're already seeing, especially in our SOL classes, getting more of our learning online. Again, you know, we have the Indiana Online Academy, and we have a lot of online options within our state, but we really like the idea of our teachers and our facilitators teaching those classes. You know, no master schedule or bell schedule. We've already eliminated bells at our middle school, and just working on some ways to create that flexible schedule, and then our e-portfolio system for K through 12. I would probably end by saying just, you know, a couple structures I think are crucial, especially for those of you looking at maybe starting to better personalize learning. You know, one is the idea of teacher as facilitator. You have to build capacity for that. You can't just all of a sudden say, okay, now the teacher's not going to be in the front of the room and we're totally flipping this on its head. I mean, you really have to have those conversations. It's really important to get good content organized. I think the best content is when you're, sometimes when it's your teachers who are doing quality podcasts and making quality content, and that's been important for us. Finding out a way to report in a performance-based system, I think, is key. You know, we're all on different paths with that, but then one-to-one if you're not there already. And then lastly, we finished this summer. We were able to go to the National Customized Learning Conference in South Dakota, and really have learned, if you want to research this idea, Maine has its own consortium for customized learning, and they're doing great things. The League of Innovative Schools in New England is a group of, I think it's about 14 high schools. They're doing really great things around customized learning. And then as Matt and the people at Garrett talked about in Wisconsin, they're doing some wonderful things too. So if you're looking for places to study this idea more, I would point you to those 3 places. Okay, I think that's it for me.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan. And thank you to everybody here. As we delve into our question and answer section, please, if you have a question, go ahead and send it in through the chat box. But all of our presenters' contact information is here, and that is much appreciated. Much appreciated, and all of them, I'm sure, would be happy to answer questions. While we're waiting for questions to come in, what advice would you have to schools who are, you know, getting ready to start this, or you know, just managing a project like this? This is a, you know, definitely a major shift in thinking. What do you just have any quick pieces of advice? Any of the 4 of you, three schools, y'all can unmute yourselves, or
Hey, Mary, this is Matt here at Garrett.
Hey, go ahead.
Yeah, I think one piece of advice is you can't, once we decided here it's the right thing to do for kids, we weren't going to wait for a tipping point of 50% buy-in or 75% buy-in or even 100% buy-in. So I would just give advice to any schools considering it. Don't wait for the right time. Do it. If you wait for the right time or think, well, we better look into it more, I think you're going to set yourselves back a couple years.
And that's true with a lot of things in life. But you know, I had a conversation like that about a school considering going one-to-one. Like you can think and rethink and overthink and question, and sometimes you just, like you said, if you decide that that's what's best, then do it and make it what's best. Anybody else have any thoughts?
This is Morgan Walker. One of the things that you know, I think has been really useful for us is not only kind of a lot of conversation with our teachers, but also, you know, on the front end, some of those things, if you have kids, you know, moving at different paces, one of the hardest things the first year was the ability for our teachers to kind of keep up, because as you have kids moving forward, they're moving faster than maybe a normal, you know, teacher pace with a normal curriculum map. And so as much as you can do on the front end makes life easier as teachers are going. So we've encouraged all of our teachers to, you know, make sure that, you know, those assessments are written, those assessments are online, the curriculum maps are, you know, pretty solid as, you know, scope and sequence wise, you know, resources and materials are gathered, you know, some of those kind of common things that we do. As much as you can do on the front end, the better. And I would even say, you know, if you have teachers recording lessons, it's a lot easier to just record them as you go during the year than to try to have to kind of stockpile to keep up with students. So if that's something that you're interested in as a school, I would probably recommend, you know, having teachers start that as you're doing the conversation, because, you know, some of those things make a difference as you're going.
And then, Mary, this is Tanya from Garrett. You know, one of the things that I would recommend is for people not to get bogged down with, like, the terminology and the language. You know, we talk about personalized learning and customized learning and pilots and all kinds of things, which sometimes can bog down other stakeholders and teachers and that kind of thing. But really, you know, focusing on the idea of what's best for kids. You know, what's best for kids is moving kids at their own pace based on their needs and their readiness and where they're at as a learner, and using data to drive that. So I think all of those things are really important, that it's not about the terminology of personalized learning or anything. It's about doing what's right for kids based on pace, based on interest, and based on, you know, on-demand kind of learning 24/7.
Excellent.
I would probably just want to echo exactly what Tanya just said. In our district, we really are, when we talk to our community, when we talk to people, we're really just talking about individualizing learning, which is what differentiated instruction talks about, is what really, when you talk to every parent, they want you to meet their own child's needs as best as you can, and really nobody can argue with that. So when you get in and start using some of the technical terminology, I think people sometimes get hung up on that. So I just want to reiterate the advice that Tanya gave.
Excellent. Now, go along with that, how did you communicate this to your parents? It seems like, you know, obviously there are two big populations that you have to, quote unquote, sell this to, or, you know, work through this with, because kids are kids. Kids are probably going to, you know, roll with the punches, especially if this turns out to be better for them, you know, in the long, well, even short term. But how did you work with the parent population? We've talked about the teacher population. How did you work with the parent population on this? And anyone feel free to jump in.
Yeah, Garrett High School last spring, let's see, we held a parent meeting. The parent meeting was early in May, explaining students had the opportunity to join the Garrett Innovation Academy, and we explained the 4 ways students could attack their learning targets: the traditional class, blended learning, seminars, and personalized projects. And the number 1 and number 2 questions was, how are they going to be graded, and how will this affect my child's GPA?
Yeah, because for a high school student, that is, I guess, probably the most important thing, is that GPA piece. So, excellent. Anybody else, how you worked with your parents, how you communicated this with your parents?
We also had parent meetings. We had, you know, district-wide, even community meetings where we invited, you know, not only our parents, but any, you know, community members that were interested to come. And then throughout the years, we've continued to have meetings for parents of students that are in the pilot classrooms just on a regular basis to talk with teachers. I know Molly had commented in there. Our teachers are really great about sending out, weekly, monthly newsletters, emails to parents, things like that. So that's really helped. Once you have the conversation with a parent and say, our goal is truly to meet your child exactly where they are at, move them as far as we can. We want to see that growth. But, our goal is to ensure that your child masters all of the content that we teach. It's hard to argue as a parent. So, just being able to kind of communicate that was really important. But also, we realized that as a parent, I'm okay. I'm okay with my kids if they're ahead. I'm okay if they're with the teacher. I'm okay if they're behind. But I do want to know it. I want to know as a parent. And so one of the things that was kind of, I think, integral this year was the Mastery Connect piece. That's a huge communication piece for us, I think, to parents. In order to be able to say, here are the, exact standards, the exact skills, topics that, your child is doing really well with. Here's what they're still working on. But rest assured, we will continue to work with them on these things. And, unlike in kind of a traditional sense where we've got to move on because we've got to get through all the content, your child is going to be met at their exact level. So that's been kind of, I think, an integral part of our process this year is the mastery-based reporting to parents.
Matt, to back up a second, how did you answer those two questions? You said you have your top two questions. How did you answer those? How do you answer those questions from parents?
Really, those two questions focused on the personalized learning projects. Again, like Dan said, all of our parents, all of our stakeholders, they've all had an experience in education, so how are you going to grade those personalized projects? Well, it still shows up on the student's transcript like any other class. So we came up with a 5-point rubric, 4-3-2-1-0, and our academy, the teachers told the parents, since they are in the academy, they're not going to be allowed to earn anything less than a 3, so the students have to repeat it. And the catchphrase now is, that's a nice start to your project, you need to dig deeper. And a few days later, the student will go to their learning coach and say, hey, I think I'm done with my project. And okay, explain it to me. What do you have done? And students will take time to explain it, and then the learning coach says, that's even better. Now you need to dig deeper to meet this learning target. And then in the student's MyLC, that computer software, it turns all of the 4s, 3s into a grade according to how many learning targets the students have done, and that gives them their grade.
Thank you, Matt, for that clarification. It looks like it is coming up to about 5 o'clock, and with that, I want to thank you all of our presenters, Tanya and Matt from Garrett-Keyser-Butler, and Morgan from Danville, and Dan from Plymouth, and Molly, our grant helper, who is working with this great group. And just if you all didn't get to see the comment that Morgan just made, I love that, and I'm going to try this when I get off the call, when I check my son's math homework, and put a smiley face next to the ones that he got wrong, as opposed to an X, and maybe that will change his mindset. I'm hoping, fingers crossed. But hopefully everybody who is in attendance today learned a little bit more about personalized or customized learning and can take those conversations onto your schools and decide if that's what's best to move to in your school. So thank you, Molly, for the luck. I need it. again, thank you to all of our presenters, and everybody have a great evening, and hope we'll see some of you on our call with Dave Burgess tomorrow, and hope to see all of you at the Twitter chat on Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Mary.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.